Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. Today we are going to paint a matcha latte with acrylic paints. So let's get started. I'm going to start with a 0 round brush. And if you want to paint along, you can grab the sketch in the link below. Let's start with a gray color. So I'm going to use this dark gray to outline the cup. Not in all the areas, but in certain areas. Let's go under here. And also in the description is going to be all the names of the paints that I'm using and the brushes as well. Then we'll come down this way. So we're sort of doing a skipped brush line. Let's go down this way. And then along the bottom. So that gives us a nice outline to give us some structure. Now let's switch brushes. I'm going to switch to a 3 flat brush. Let's start putting in some of the darker area of the matcha. To do that, I'm going to use this darker green color. And then we want to make it even darker, so let's mix some of this gray in there. And then let's start bringing that down on this right side. I'm moving my brush strokes back and forth so I get some nice texture. So I'm making some of the strokes vertical and some of them horizontal. We add a little bit more gray to create a little more depth and shadow. And then we want to get lighter. So I'm going to take just a straight green and start putting that in. Nice rich color. Okay, I might also take a little bit of this grayish blue, put a little bit of that in there to create a little more interest in the shadows. Now let's pick up this bright vibrant green, and that can mix in with this darker color. Get some nice blending going, but we want it to be lighter over here. Let's put a little bit more here. So you can rinse off your brush and remove some of that dark paint that was on there. And then let's try to get a pure green and see if we can make it nice light value right here. Could even add a little water and thin the paint. Just want this glowing effect. So in the beige, I added a little bit of pastel yellow. Let's pick some of that up and put a little bit of that in. See if that'll make an even lighter shade. Okay, and while that's still wet, pick up a little bit of white paint. Let's start putting in a highlight. Just making these brush strokes kind of crisscross. Okay, and then you can take some of the lighter green and you can put some over on the right side. Maybe mix it with a little bit of blue and some white. See if we can get a cool green color. And then you can just put a little bit of that over on the right side. Maybe down at the bottom. Okay. And now let's do this area where the milk is. So I'm going to take some gray paint, put a little bit on this right side, And then mix, let's actually grab the bluish gray and start building a shadow over here. And then I'm going to pick up some of the beige. Start mixing that beige in there. You can make a light gray. Take some white and a little bit of the gray. And let's start putting that in this right side. Bringing it down underneath. Try to get close to your sketch line. You can overlap your edges as well. I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, feather it in, and then a little bit of white, and then a little bit of this yellow color. So we had some beige, a little bit of yellow. Mix that in too. I'm going to rinse the brush. I'm going to take some white paint. Just bring that over on the left side. Okay. Now let's paint this area. So I'm going to make a light gray. Let's take some white and the dark gray and start filling in this handle. I'm going to take some of the darker color, put that in as well. Just using the edge of the brush to get nice painterly brush strokes. Okay, so now let's actually, I'm going to try to clean up that edge a little bit. Now I'm going to take some white and just put a little bit of that in as a reflection and highlight. Okay, so now let's paint the top of the matcha area. So I'm going to let's use some of the darker green, and we can go around this way. I'm thinning it down a little bit so I can sort of see that sketch underneath. Let's bring a nice green around the edge. Some over here. And then I'm going to get lighter, so let's pick up some of this lighter green and continue to bring it down. And then I'm going to pick up some white and start mixing that white in there just to get a nice frothy appearance. It's a little bit lighter in the front. Then let's use some of this cooler green that we mixed up. And then just put that in for a nice base. Again, a light wash. Okay, so I might take a little bit more green and just add another layer of that. Maybe mix some on top of that lighter white color. Going in this circular motion. Okay, I'm blending. Okay, so now let's take a 0 round brush and I'm going to take some white paint. Let's just put in a few little highlights along the bottom. And then also bring some highlights around the top of the cup, around that rim. And you don't want to cover the whole thing, just doing little highlights, sort of skipping. And you could also come back with some of that dark gray and add another layer of that where you want to have a little more shadow and definition. Okay, I'm going to bring a highlight on this left side. So let's put a little bit of white around just over here. And then right here on the left. Okay. And now I'm going to take a little bit more of this minty color and just put another layer along that edge here. Okay, so now let's try to add the latte art or the milk. I'm going to do that with a straight white and using the 0 round brush. So see if you can add the paint in that heart shape. I can just barely see mine. But if you lose it, it's okay. This is something that doesn't have to be too precise. But I'm using quite a bit of paint. And then we'll make the curve here. So I want thick layers of paint here. And I'm making that shape. Let's add another thick layer. And now what I want to do is try to drag the paint like this. So we'll add some more white paint on there and then see if we can drag it and create a point. Okay, and you can sort of go back and direct that paint in towards that point. Okay, so now let's add some final highlights. You could add some thinner lines around this area. Come up that way. And let's add a little bit of a lighter color along this front. Okay, and then there's also 2 little dots. You could go back and add these 2 little dots on each side. Okay, I might add a few highlights back in over here. And just make everything sort of come together. Okay, and I think we will call this painting complete. That is how you can paint a matcha latte with acrylic paints. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Like and subscribe for more painting tutorials. And if you want to dive deeper into acrylic painting, check out my free guide in the description below, and we'll see you in the next video.